Now let's talk to a man that knows all. He's got this book called Dover Court, Toowong's Hidden Treasure and Its People. It's a great yarn. So if you want to get that, you can go to historyouthere.com. But let's talk to Harold the Peacock, the Ipswich historian, and he's going to tell us all about a bloke called Falkenberg. He was a forger. G'day there, Harold the H.
Hey, Danny, how you going?
Good,
Beautiful
mate.
day in Ipswich, isn't it?
What about this book? Just quickly give us a rendition about it and how we can get it.
Yeah, look, it's called Dover Court, and it's about this historic house still in Toowong in Brisbane, built in 1865, and the number of amazing people and families live there is incredible. There's sex scandals, there's mysterious deaths, and there's everything you want, and of course lots of connections to Ipswich. So you can get Dover Court at historyouthere.com.
And I think a lady's bought it, and she's going to make it, restore it to the way it was, so that's good.
Exactly right.
Now tell us about Falkenberg the forger.
Yeah, look, I told you before about the bushranger, Captain Thunderbolt, who was arrested and released here in Ipswich back in 1870.
Yes.
And another bushranger, Frank Gardner, actually passed through the district in 1862. Now, he just led the biggest gold heist in Australian history. The total value of that robbery was £14 million or £14,000 or 13 million in today's money. Now, anyway, Gardner retired from bushranging and went to run a general store up west of Rockhampton. But
how do you retire from being a crook?
well, he put his feet up and ran a good store, I guess. But anyway, at the same time, 157 years ago, there was another perhaps more notorious felon here in Queensland, and this time Ipswich finished him off. The guy was described as having a downcast look, was round-shouldered and pigeon-toed. So there's no one we can think of in Ipswich looks like that.
I think there is, but I'm not going to say.
But anyway, this guy's name was Falkenberg the forger, and he was one of the most famous forgers in Australian history. His full name was Arthur Alfred Falkenberg, alias Oscar Bird, Oscar Vogel, Oscar Bulow, Oscar Linden, Pete Thompson, Hunter, Williams, and many more names.
He was a very honest man.
That's right. Now, Falkenberg was so well known that when the bushranger Frank Gardner was arrested, Falkenberg was in custody on the same ship, but he stole all the limelight. You see, Falkenberg was a well-educated former Prussian officer who arrived in Melbourne during the gold rush back in 1854. He then put his education to good use and embarked on a career as a forger. But by 1862, Falkenberg was cashing forged cheques across Sydney, so he then fled up here to Brisbane. Now, for 4 months, he worked across the road from the Brisbane police station. So when Falkenberg's description was sent to the Brisbane police, they walked straight across the road and arrested him.
Love it.
And anyway, Falkenberg escaped from the Brisbane lockup by bending one of the 1-inch iron bars that covered the windows. And as a memento for his jailers, he left the lock as his hair. Now, outside in the street, Falkenberg bumped into Chief Constable and Senior Sergeant of Police, but they didn't recognise him. So he went on the run. And in February 1864, Falkenberg first came here to Ipswich. And then from here he went up to the Toowoomba and Dalby and then ended up in Maryborough. And that's where they recognised him and arrested him again. But Falkenberg then escaped from the Maryborough lockout, despite wearing both leg irons and handcuffs. Somehow he got out of them and removed bricks from the wall and escaped that way. Anyway, he was recaptured and then came on the ship down south. Now, there was much excitement was aroused in Brisbane in 1864 when it was announced that a ship had arrived from Rockhampton and Maryborough and was carrying both the notorious bushranger Frank Gardner and Falkenberg the forger. And both were sent to Sydney, where they served their time. But our friend Falkenberg never lost his interest in forgery and came back up north. He got locked up again out on St Helena Island. When he was released in 1883, that's when he came to Ipswich to restart his career. And he was victimising scores of tradesmen with forged cheques. That's when he was arrested one last time and sent back to jail. So Ipswich was just a step too far for him. So, Danny, Ipswich might be an innocent place these days, but back in colonial days, it was a mecca for bushrangers, Falkenberg the forger, and was not to be toyed with. There's so much history here, Danny.
It's a great city. There's a lot I could say, but I won't. It's a great city. It's got lots of heritage and lots of history, and you bring it to us in your own brilliant way. And if we want to find that story, we go to historyouthere.com. Don't forget the book, Dover Court, Toowong's hidden treasure and its people. Harold, the Peacock, we love you in a in a sort of a way.
In a good way.
In a good way. So check that out on Facebook, historyouthere.com. Check out the book and go and purchase one. It's a really good book. Thanks a lot, Harold.